Amazing. I am going to introduce you all to our host for today, Asia Youngman. Asia Youngman is an award-winning Indigenous Creative filmmaker. Most recently, she co-directed and executive produced I'm Just Here for the Riot for ESPN's acclaimed 30 for 30 series. Asia was the recipient of the Directors Guild of Canada BC Emerging Greenlight for her short. Oh God. Asia, do you mind pronouncing it for me? I'm so sorry. I meant to ask you before we started.
It's Nahaha Itku.
Nahaha Itku, which premiered in the 47th Toronto International Film Festival. Nahaha Itku story is after moving to a new town, a teenager must navigate peer pressure when her next door neighbor convinces her to explore a nearby island in search of a legendary lake monster. Right, pass it off to Aisha. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Coral. So I'm just going to read through everyone's bios before we get started with our Q&A. And first up is Arnold Lim. Arnold is an independent director and producer who won Telefilm's Talent to Watch grant twice with past awards, including the Directors Guild of Canada's Greenlight Award for Obsura, which won the Leo Awards for Best Short Film at the latest Leo Awards. Congratulations. A video journalist of more than a decade and photography manager for 5 Olympic Games. He hails from Victoria, BC, where he lives with his wife and 2 children. And next is Lynne Lee. Lynne is a Chinese-Canadian marketing executive turned producer and community builder. Her producing debut was for the short My Name is Arnold with Arnold Lim, and she's happy she got to do Obscura, and now the Telefilm funded the Bryce Lee story with him again. And just to give a logline for Obscura, Sang-uk Hikiko Mori, who's locked himself in his room for a year, builds a camera obscura from his room as a conduit to the outside world. And next is Angie Nolan. And she's an award-winning writer, director, actor in film and theater whose past and present work strives to help grow the independent arts in BC. And Kryssta Mills is a Vancouver-based producer with strong creative development experience and a keen interest in post-production. She started her career on the TV series The X-Files and has worked previously as an assistant director and a mortgage broker. And their project is The Scribe of Samhain. And a logline of the project is on the eve of Samhain, an ailing author summons the genius spirit she believes to be trapped in her typewriter in order to help her write her magnum opus. And last but not least is Kath Drew. And Kath guides our Greenlight filmmakers through the receivable requirements that must be submitted for each funding drawdown. Kath has worked in the television and film industry for many years as a production accountant and estimator. And she will be joining us a bit later to help answer some questions just about what to expect and what to submit for the Greenlight participants. And I think specifically just giving some tips as to what people can do to help their projects stand out during the application process. So we're going to jump into a discussion now. It's going to be a casual conversation, but we do have some kind of curated questions to help hopefully answer most of the questions that the folks here are looking to have answered. And then if there's time, we may open up the floor just to answer 1 or 2 questions from the group if we did miss anything during our discussion. So I think the first thing we want to talk about is really just how to prepare your application. I think a lot of people are maybe wondering what they need to submit and maybe ways that they can help their project stand out. So maybe we can just open it up to the group to chat about what their experience was like during the application process. So why don't we start with Arnold and Lynne to talk about Obscura and maybe how they prepared their application and the forms that they submitted and things like that.
Lynne, I don't know if you wanted to start, but really for Obscura, it was kind of it was 2-tiered process. 2-tiered meaning the first time I submitted, I was rejected, and then the second tier meaning we applied and we were gratefully successful. So it started off in 2021 when I applied and with the same project, and we got to the final 5. At that time, it was 5 that were curated down, and then when we did the pitch, unfortunately, our project wasn't selected at the time, and to be honest, it was a bit of a blessing in some ways, and it felt obviously horrible at the time. But the next year we tried it again. It made me realize that this was definitely the story that I wanted to tell. And I think when it comes down to making the pitch, the thing that I think about is like, can I not do this? And if the answer is yes, you cannot do it, then maybe you should do it and do something else. For me, the answer was no, I cannot not do this. I'm being confusing, but I knew that that was a project for me. So we submitted again, and getting the pitch materials together was actually, there is some time that goes into it, but that curation process offers you an opportunity to kind of really dive into how much you're passionate about this project. And it's kind of a self-test in some ways, that if you're willing to do it and do it to the level that is needed to compete with the amazing talents that are here every single day, people like Angie, people like the other people that are submitting every single year, and Asia, you and your team, Kryssta, like, there's amazing, talented, hardworking individuals. And if you are still willing to go through the grind of doing it and doing to a level that is the highest that you can achieve, and the expected level that you need to be able to compete with amazing individuals like that, then you know that that's the right project. So I probably didn't answer the question, but that's my meandering.
I think you definitely answered the question. And I think it's a great example too, because I know there's been scenarios where, people have submitted a project and maybe it wasn't selected that year. And just to encourage people to continue submitting, even if they had applied for the previous project, for a different year of the DGC Greenlight. So I think it's just, a great example to kind of keep on submitting your passion projects, especially if it's something that you've been sitting on and you still have that gut feeling of like, I need to make this, because that's always the telltale sign that you have to really push to get something made. Lynne, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. My answer is very easy. I showed up at the Greenlight pitch that Arnold was presenting. So what happened was, I actually heard about the project through Arnold. I knew he was working on pitching for the DGC Greenlight pitch program, and I went to support him as a cheerleader. So I actually contributed nothing except for cheering him very loudly during the pitch. And after he actually got awarded, I went up to him and asked him, "Do you have a producer yet?" And he does not. So I attached myself to the project, and we went on that journey ever since.
That's great, because I know, Arnold, you were also a producer on the project, so I gather you put together the budget that was required for the application, and it's great that you and Lynne could come together to get the film made. Before I pass it over to Angie and Kryssta, I just want to remind folks, if you do have questions that come up, just feel free to write them in the chat, and Coral will go through them, and we'll try to answer as many as we can at the end. So Angie, did you want to talk a bit about your application process and what it was like for you to prepare the documents and submit to Greenlight?
Sure. Ours is a little bit of a more interesting story. I have applied to Greenlight before and didn't make the finals 2 times before this, and then I kind of let it fall off my radar, and I knew that the deadline was coming, and I'd just written a story that came to me really fast for a publication, a Halloween publication, and it was just really inspired by a conversation I had with my mother about my grandmother, who it had been 30 years since she had passed. And then we just started talking about old traditions and things like that. And all of a sudden, my mind just wouldn't stop. And I just started writing about some of her old traditions, especially around Halloween, which is Irish. In Ireland, it's called Samhain. And so I wrote this publication about it. And then I got so many compliments about it, and just a lot of love. And I was like, maybe this would be a really great short film. And Kryssta, who is just like the ultimate cheerleader and also super go-getter, get her done, was like, we were like, okay, we're gonna do it. And Kryssta, I can't even remember how many days. We did it in 5 days, right? Like the application or something, like very, very short. So I was doing all the creative, but luckily I just sort of had this sort of I don't even know what it is, but I would just sort of like a train load of memories and images and all that kind of stuff that I just sort of we just sort of put our heads down and went heavy on the creative, just writing all the stuff around the creative. And then Kryssta just went to town with, I helped build the schedule. I pulled in my AD skill set to build the schedule, and then she could help with all the budgeting and all sort of the legal stuff where my brain does not go, and she has a brilliant brain for that. So yeah, I would say that's pretty much it, but I'll let Kryssta add for what it was like for her to get all that ready in a short period of time.
This was one of those rare occurrences where when you work with somebody and you have a long, deep history with them already, Angie and I have already done bigger projects together, and this one came down the pipe and it felt like, ooh, we might be sliding a little late into this. But honestly, when we started to, like, as she says, sort of like dig into, well, what is it that we really need to put this together? We really had kind of everything that we needed to just sort of lay it out. You know, it's definitely that that cartoon of like laying the railroad tracks as the train is coming down the tracks, right? So, but we just were able to, you know, again, from having a shorthand together, having a long relationship, and me having done recently a lot of pitching practice, a lot of budgeting. I've been teaching budgeting at film school and stuff like that. So it all sort of came together actually really quickly, but very cohesively. And it was really only due to a lot of the back story or the back relationships and experiences and ability that we have to kind of work together in a quick shorthand.
Thanks for that, Kryssta. And I'm glad you mentioned pitching, because my next question is about the pitch process. When I did the DGC Greenlight pitch, it was all on Zoom just because of COVID. So I had the luxury of having like my script on my screen beside me, and I did memorize it, but it was really helpful to not have to do it in front of a live audience. So I really commend you all for going through a very different process than I did in terms of the pitching, but I'd love to know what it was like for you, how you prepared for it, and maybe one piece of advice that you would have for others who are maybe kind of a little nervous about the pitching process or a little curious what it's like. So I don't know if Angie, you want to start with this one, Angie and Kryssta?
Sure. For me, Kryssta has like a deep well of, because her experience, I think probably when she worked at the CFC for a really long time in the prime, she'll explain that too, but she had this like amazing like pitch practice document that she threw my way, and she tested me. We did like so many times, timing, like everything. Like it was intense. It was a workshop for me for sure. But one thing that which it was so helpful. And then because I think I would have been so nervous, and I have a tendency to ramble when I get excited about things. So it structured me, it focused me. But what the notes that Kryssta gave me, along with our pitch coach that we all get, that's still part of the program, I'm assuming, but the pitch coach that we had, the same thing kept coming up, was like the strongest part of our story was my personal connection to it. And so we really leaned into that on the pitch night for sure. And we actually even restructured after the pitch coach. Kryssta and I went way down the line and just changed some things that felt maybe a little bit too sort of story sterile, or not even, you know, it was too, I don't know, it was more about the business instead of the story. And we delved deeper into the story. And then that's what I really held on to on the night in front of the live audience, which was so nerve-wracking. I don't even remember it. I just like fully blacked out, but I guess we did okay.
I blacked out too. I think I broke out in hives. I was so nervous, and I was like trying to cover it on my screen. So it happens. Kryssta, did you want to share anything about maybe just some of the advice that you shared with Angie, or I'm curious kind of the documents that you sent to her, like what are the standout tips in terms of pitching? Because it is an art form.
Yeah, I've actually had the opportunity to be in the room for a lot of pitches. So number one, hands down, always is firsthand experience. That's all of us in this business, right? Learn, watch, practice, watch. The second thing always is having your itemized list. And again, I can go through that with everybody. There is a method to the madness, different styles of creative Forms are also pitched differently, so keep that in mind. But we had a very tight 5 minute, and the point of that is to use your repetitive brain, your brain to memorize what you want to say and dial that into a place. We're talking 40 times, 30, 40 times, recording yourself, listening to it back, practicing with your iPhone, videotape yourself. Really, that hard work and practice does work, because at the end of the day, you want to stand there on stage and have that creative element, have that be the thing that's reaching out to touch the audience. So you need to have all your business sort of taken care of and knowing where you're going and your steps, so that you can relax when you're up there and let your creative experience and inspiration really, really come out to the audience. That's what, at the end of the day, will connect all of us, right?
Thanks, Kryssta. Yeah, that's great advice. I think I would like wander around my apartment just reciting it over and over and over to the point where it's so like clicked in that you can just really focus on other things because you're almost on like autopilot. You have it so memorized in a way. And just so everyone knows, if you are shortlisted to go and do the live pitch, there is an opportunity to do a practice pitch. So I believe it's still like on Zoom like this, and it'll just be the selected participants to kind of come on and do a practice pitch, and you'll get feedback on what's working, maybe things that could be improved. And I really felt like that was a great opportunity to kind of shift some things around, because I think what Angie mentioned, like the personal anecdotes of a pitch are so important. And I almost put that like at the top and maybe kind of like put it at the end as well, like bookended it, because that is really what's going to draw people in, is when you have a personal connection to a story. Arnold and Lynne, do you want to share some of your tips or what it was like for you to go through the pitching process?
Yeah, so uh, I find it, I'm very not a pitch person. So I totally agree with everything that Angie, Kryssta, and Asia, you have said. I find my quiet time, the time that I am able to kind of reset and be myself and just really focus, is in the shower. And I don't know why that, that's the hot water. It just kind of makes me feel like I'm ready to get out there and do things. And for me, it was tricky because, so I don't live in Vancouver. I live in Victoria, and it just happened to be that I was quite busy that week, and I didn't get a chance to really pitch it as much as I would like to. But I was lucky because I have my agent was said that, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to do you're going to pitch it to me, Arnold. And then so I pitched it to her. She gave me some notes on it, and I was working on the pitch with the writer as well, the co-writer, Claire Mulligan, who wrote the story with me. And I got a chance to pitch it to people that I knew and felt comfortable with. And then when I got to the day, because I was pitching it live, I forgot everything that I thought that was going to help me. And I remember being in my car outside of the Van City Theater while other people were pitching, and I knew that they gave us the order, so I knew that I was a couple, I was like half an hour or whatever it was away, so I was in my car with little cue cards that I had written on the ferry while I was driving over, and like pitching to myself in the car. Like I must have looked mad just in my car, just like talking out loud and using my hands and just like trying to convince an audience that wasn't there that our project was worth considering. And so I don't know that I have a specific you know piece of advice that supersedes what everyone else had already said. Really, it is about finding your way into the story. And if you are passionate about the story, and we talked about this before, and you know this is the story that you want to tell, finding that nugget of what it is that makes you want to tell that story, and not just feeling like that it was a story that was personal to me, or like that, and that was something that I felt about this story, but finding a way to articulate that in a way that other people would connect with, and not just making it about me and making it about a theme that's universal, so that other people can latch onto that and feel that and gravitate towards that as well. So that's what I tried to do, and then I promptly lost it and ended up we get timed, we get exactly 5 minutes or something like that. And I remember losing the last 1 minute of it and getting cut off. The guy said, "Okay, you're done," and I was like, I was only 4 minutes in, but luckily people looked past that and were able to make it happen.
Thanks for sharing that, Arnold. Lynne, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, again, because I actually didn't help Arnold in any way during his pitch process, but I was really hoping he would tell the car story because I thought that was very impressive that he actually sat in the car in front of the theater for a long while to practice on his own. I just wanted to comment on, I also saw Angie's pitch. It was incredible as well. And I think from an audience perspective, really feeling that the storyteller, because the person pitching is telling a story, really is speaking from a place of authenticity, and that you're being truthful with what you're telling the audience about why you want to do it, what story you're telling is so important, and the audience and the judges definitely feel it. And I think having very clear visual tools really helped for people to follow the story and what you're pitching to them. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Thanks, Lynne. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the visuals because there is a question in the Q&A, which I'll just quickly touch upon. And there is a projector while you're pitching, so you're welcome to share imagery, anything you like that really helps support your pitch. But like you mentioned, Lynne, like it's like authenticity really goes a long way in terms of doing a pitch. Like I think if you focus too much on like the theatrics of it all, like sometimes you can really lose people. Like if you just speak from the heart, that really is what captivates an audience. So next up, we're going to talk about your projects and maybe what changed from your scripts to production to completion. So I'm curious if you can share maybe what changed with your projects and maybe why you ended up making those changes. So let's start with the Obsura team this time. Arnold, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I mean, no project that I've ever worked on, anyways, starts and ends exactly the way that I expect it to. And in terms of what changed, I think for me it was probably the script. The script actually changed a fair bit from, not a fair, like a reasonable amount from the first time we pitched it to the second time we pitched it. And there was some specific notes that people had mentioned to us about the project that we really took to heart. And when you get rejection, I think that's when you learn the most, and you learn the most about your project, and you learn the most about yourself and why it didn't work for whatever reason. And the hard thing that I needed to accept at the time was maybe I didn't deserve it in that moment. And that's something that you never want to talk about or think about in that way. And so I look back at that and think, okay, you know what? That was a good opportunity for me to learn and then craft the project in a way that that was, quote unquote, very cheesily said, undeniable. And what that means is really nebulous and ephemeral for sure. But um, we made enough changes there and changed the ending especially that made the film feel differently. And then once that happened, for whatever reason, the visuals start to form in a completely different way. Even though I thought, okay, I know exactly what I want to do and some of the things that I want to do when I shoot it, all those kinds of things. That script changing just really kind of brought things together and elevated, in my mind, how the story was, how effective the story was. And when you have a short amount of time, it's really difficult to tell a story in a way that you selfishly feel is worth the audience's time. And that's something that I think about quite a bit. And so the script changed a lot, and the way that I approached the visual metaphors used in the film changed because of the script changed, and it changed for the better. It took a full year to get back to that point because the DGC Greenlight only happens once a year. It was a painful year, like to think about going back how you had to grind for it, and then to think, oh, I thought it was ready, but I was more ready this time. So you know, looking back at it, part of me is grateful for the rejection, grateful for the loss, because um, maybe I deserved the loss, and maybe I deserved to recraft the narrative in a way that was more honest, not only to myself but to the audiences. And so the thing that changed the most for me was the script. Sorry, that was meandering again.
Oh, that was great to hear that, Arnold. I like when we did our project, it ended up being a bit longer than the 15-minute runtime, which is sort of one of the requirements of the project you submit. And I had to like cut a scene just to like make it all work. And I think if I were to go back, I would have loved to spend a bit more time on the script just to kind of condense it and know that I didn't have to cut scenes or, you know, just have to make those sacrifices to tell the story that I wanted to tell. Lynne, did you want to share anything about what changed during the process, whether it was during production or post-production or any of the stages of making the film?
I would say for our project, it actually, once we locked the script, everything kind of did progress quite smoothly. You know, there were challenges. There's always challenges on the way, but I just thought I'd provide this small anecdote regarding the change, which was the story is called Obsura, and as described in the logline, the protagonist, because he's trapped in his own room, being shut in, Hikikomori, he created a camera obscura to project the outside world to you know, in his own bedroom, and we really wanted to do it practical, and we even got a device. That is a camera obscura that could actually project things onto the wall. And we were really excited when it first worked. We saw that the images were incredible, but when we actually tested with a camera, it just didn't read. So we were all pretty heartbroken, but we worked out how to do it with projection. And so our whole shoot plan changed because we now had to do two parts of the shoot, shoot stuff to be projected onto the wall, and then create all the material for the main shoot. But that actually turned out to be quite fun for all the creative team. So that was one big change creatively that we had to accommodate for the film.
How many shoot days did you have again for your project? Out of curiosity.
Because of that, we ended up having to squeeze 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah, we had to do like 2 days of you know, material for the projector. We actually did plan for a 4-day main shoot. We couldn't finish, but we were, I don't know if we were smart, but we planned it over Victoria Day weekend for a Saturday and Sunday shoot, and managed to get everybody to you know, we didn't plan it that way, but on Sunday everybody saw that it was just very complex and very tedious, and the team was willing to stay for an additional half day to complete it.
That's great. I think for our project, I think it was 5 production days. And then we were missing like some key moments of like our main scene, and we had to go do like 2 night shoots at like this random lake in the area. So I think it ended up being roughly like almost 6 or 7 days. So it's similar to yours as well. Angie, did you want to share anything that changed with your project from any of the stages, and maybe your reasoning to why you decided to make those changes?
Well, first off, our title changed from the pitch from the original application. It just suited the story more anyway, and it was just a little bit more, I don't know, lyrical or something. It just matched sort of kind of the feeling and tone that we're going for. Also, the tone changed a lot, which came about just from our limited shooting days, etc. You know, just sort of some of the limitations of production. The original vision had been a bit darker than what is on the screen now, And then the relationship between the grandmother and granddaughter definitely was built up a little bit more. So I would say it became more of a, what did I call it? A spirited drama would be if I was to say what kind of tone it was now. Yeah, I feel like Kryssta could speak to this too. I think we were very limited in our shoot days because of the location that we went after. And because the location was such a specific character in the film, finding the perfect one was what took us a lot of time. And then so our story, our film, all that kind of really started to bend around that location that we had and the production time that we had too. So for me personally, as a creative, I feel like those are two of the big things. Mainly tone for me was a big one for me to also let go of, you know, and in terms like trying to find it in the edit was just not an option because it's sort of not, we didn't really shoot it that way. So, I mean, we stayed pretty strong to the script too, like, and we didn't really lose a lot of things in shooting it in 3 days. There was just, you know, we could have used another day or at least another half day for sure. Another half day would have made all the difference, but you know, you're so limited, you know, sometimes in this realm. And yeah, I mean, we were just so blessed with the crew that rallied, like the people that came together on Bow and I, like, and we also did it on location, which was, you know, we had to put people up and, you know, so a lot of our budget and stuff went that way too. So, you know, you put a lot in one direction, you got to lose somewhere else. So, but I mean, it was such a beautiful experience. I keep saying that. It was like that shooting experience was one of the best of my entire 30 years in this industry. So, you know, nobody will ever be able to take that away from me. That's for sure. And that was mainly with the help of an amazing producer. That's important to get a producer on board as soon as possible. That is the one thing I will say for sure. But I'll let Kryssta speak to the rest of it because she had to deal with so much logistically.
Thanks, Angie, for that beautiful overview. Yeah, I mean, you guys, listen. This is short filmmaking. You're splitting hairs, no matter where or what you do. So you have to work with, you know, the collaboration in the team to figure out where are you going to take away so that you can spend more time, money, energy, etc. in another space. And that is it's involved almost in every decision that you make when you're making a short film or any film for that matter. So for creative, Angie and I have a really great shorthand. I also am really into creative and really like talking about script and talking about characters and really discussing the evolution of where that's going. We ended up shooting stuff that we didn't need at the end of the day. And this was just one or two things. And I think all of us as filmmakers will find that eventually, sometimes when we're at script stage, we need to have the scene on the page so that it makes sense in our brain, you know, when we're moving characters from one place or to another, emotionally or physically, etc. And then when you get to set and you see the scene in front of you, you realize that all of that business can actually be done in a look, you know, from an actor or a way that we, you know, a side or an angle that we decide to shoot from. And so you can sort of take away things that you felt were really important because you needed to like explain your story, that actually can come to you really naturally or organically once you are on the set and everybody's in character and it's working for you. Yeah, and then the second thing about it is really deciding what it is that's really important to you for that movie, among other things. And for us, it was location. It was an opportunity to have a platform for us to shoot in any direction, and really to spend some time encompassing that kind of perspective so it does support your narrative. So we had to make some, you know, concessions for, and that was basically another shooting day. And I like to call it the drone unit, that never materialized because I would have loved to have a drone unit. But again, you have to move 30 people to an island, put them up for 3 days, move all of your locations equipment, including your power, your generators, everything. You have to move it into onto an island and put everybody up, and then run your village from this remote location. So you're going to make some concessions in that choice, and those were the choices that we made. So, and you can see it on the film.
So worth it, just because that location was amazing. And yeah, I think Boat Island's so beautiful, but to see it, depicted on screen is just really one of the most special parts, I think, of that film. So the next question is, I guess, sort of like what maybe you would do differently knowing what you know now. I think the great thing about making short films, it really allows us as directors and filmmakers to step out of our comfort zone, try something different, whether that's a different genre or just, maybe there's technical aspects of a film that draws you into just trying something new. And that's what I love about this DGC initiative, is because it does give directors that opportunity to have a calling card film or just kind of do something a bit different than what they've done. So based on, I guess, your learning from making these projects, what would you maybe do differently if you could go back in time? Or I guess, what was the biggest takeaway in terms of your learning experience making these films? And Lynn, why don't we start with you?
I actually can't say I would do anything differently, except I wish I had known about the project earlier, to help Arnold more in this whole process. In the sense, because I think we really had a very solid team to work on this project together. I think the key is really to find your people, the people you can trust, and the people that you can have a shorthand with, to really help you bring your creative vision to life. And so, for this specific project, I think, yes, we had challenges, but we were able to really overcome a lot of the challenges as a team together. Yeah, in that respect, I honestly can't say. It was really an extraordinary experience, for me personally, to be able to bring this project to life, and the journey that we went on together. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thanks, Lynn. Arnold, did you want to add anything about your kind of takeaway from making the project or things that you learned?
In terms of changing anything, like, I'm not sure. Like, I'm one of those filmmakers that every project that I do, especially short films, and like Lynn said, I see as a gift. And in Asia, this is something I think I learned in part from you, and because you talked about that before, and you were a previous winner, and your project was something that I looked at beforehand, and saw how ambitious that your project was, and that in watching the project, I was like, wow. So Asia just really went for it, and I love that, and that's something that I try to do in all the short films that I make now. So I try to reach for and achieve something that I've never tried before. So even if it's one scene or one type of shot, or one type of thing, whether it be trying a different actor, or doing something different, doing a table scene with 10 people, like whatever it is, like find that little thing where that really is going to challenge you and push you, and scare you, and maybe beat you up and pummel you a little bit, and then just drive towards that, and just like walk towards that goal. And that was, I think that's the thing that I'm most grateful for, because the DGC Greenlight Award gives you a platform to try something, and I don't want to say any film gives you an opportunity to make mistakes necessarily. It does, but that also scares me a lot, because I don't want, like, it's such a big opportunity that you don't want to, quote unquote, make a mistake, or waste it. But something that I did learn from my previous filmmaking experiences, that I once made a film where just based on the circumstance, the amount of money that we had, the amount of time that we had, I played it a little bit safer. And because I knew, okay, I can get this scene and this, and then, okay, we're going to do a master and 2 overs and we're going to be fine. Okay, well, that's good. We'll just, and then going back and watching that film now, I look at it and like, I should have taken a chance here. I should have went for it, and maybe I would have hit a home run. Maybe I would have grounded out and struck out, and both would have been what they would have been. But um, I think what I learned is you have to kind of go for it a little bit and take a chance and understand that you may trip along the way. And I've certainly fallen on my face many, many times. But yeah, I don't know how to do it another way anymore. So that's something that I think that is the lesson that I've learned in every film that I've made since I've been thinking about that is I've tried something that is probably beyond the scope of what I was capable of doing before and never probably would have tried otherwise. And from now on, I'm going to do that every single time.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Arnold. And I appreciate what you said about my project as well, because I truthfully I was a little like self-conscious that I had made too ambitious of a concept. And I think what you said, like I wanted to challenge myself, and there's so many things that I wanted to try out as a director. And so I think I kind of like threw it all into one project. And then I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is too much. And initially we wanted to shoot it on film, which like I'm so glad we didn't, because that just would have added to the chaos that already was the process of making the film. But I completely agree. I feel like every project I'm trying to challenge myself and just put myself out of like my own kind of bubble and comfort zone, and really just take advantage of an opportunity like this just to go for it, like you said. So thank you so much for sharing that. Kryssta, did you want to chime in with anything?
I think, I mean, this actual project is really the director's medium, this Greenlight program. So that is actually one of the most amazing things about this specific program is that it really is about directors, and it really is about giving you a great place to try something, to push yourself a little bit, and to kind of, I guess, maybe try to figure out how all of the normal crazy filmmaking experiences can be kind of leveled or normalized a little bit, so that, essentially that's by having another team member, like a producer that you can believe and trust, so that you can kind of go to the ledge and jump a little bit, try to get outside of your box. So I think that's actually one of the most amazing opportunities that everyone gets with this specific program. And really those things do not get handed to you, as everybody here knows. So, that's even more reason to take advantage of it. You learn so many little things on every film. Every film is a different experience, for sure. Obviously for me, I would have been, I want more money, I want another day to shoot, I want another camera, I want another unit, dream big, right? So we're not getting that. We didn't get that. We made the choices that we had to make to make a movie that we did make. Does not stop me from, in my mind, continuing to scale up and, dream about those bigger projects where you do get the opportunity to add more tools. But yeah, it's about tools, learning different experiences, figuring out how to manage the stuff that you already know with taking on new challenges. And more specifically, this program is about trying to take a leap, right, creatively, and be supported in that. So that's why we're all here, which is, something that we're super grateful for. Oh, I just lost my sound. Sorry, missed that.
Oh, what was I was muted, sorry. I've been so good at unmuting myself and muting myself that I stopped with that. Thank you, Kryssta. Angie, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, for me, the biggest learning curve too was sort of the post-production process, because I've edited and stuff like on smaller projects myself. I understand the creative part of it, but I did not understand sort of the like the whole managing and all that of it. And poor Chris, I'll let her speak to it, but um I think most of you knew on the night that we screened them, she lost her mother during this process. And so obviously like got us to an incredible point at the beginning of post production and had set up such great like things to follow, but I didn't have all the language that she just inherently has. So it was a big like uphill to climb for sure. So I feel like now that I know that more, and it was really um a lot to learn. And but I'm grateful that I know it now, because I think it'll just help me as I move into long form content and just having a better knowledge of the language, sort of the business language around post, and sort of all the sort of different moving parts and pieces around that, the managing of it and the scheduling of it and everything like that, and just where everything needs to be timed in that in that process. um yeah, I think that was, I feel like of all the parts of this project, that was the most challenging for me for sure. And if I hadn't had Kryssta set us up before, long before that, to that point, that I don't really know what we would have done. And she still was there to always help me and coach me through when she could, but obviously going through something so so huge, it was a lot. It was a lot. I'd say it was just a lot for Kryssta for sure personally. And then just as her friend and then fellow filmmaker, and knowing that she wants to put out the best, most beautiful thing ever too with her name on it. It's like the pressure was huge. The pressure was huge. So just that, but also the support from DGC was really great, I have to say. In that, like knowing what we are going through, and that just sort of um being really sort of supportive in that way and understanding helped us. But that was definitely my biggest learning curve for sure.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Kryssta, I didn't mean to. I hope that's okay that I should have asked beforehand before sharing that, but
Thanks for sharing that, Angie. And yeah, I'm sorry that you went through that, Kryssta, especially it's hard enough to make a short film, but to kind of be dealing with so many outside factors as well. Yeah, it must have been very challenging. So we just have a couple questions left, and then we'll start to wrap things up. So part of the award is getting $30,000 in cash, as well as $75,000 in kind production services, production support. And so I'm curious to hear from the group about what is the best way to approach vendors and various folks to try to get support for your project. Because I know when I was applying for DGC Greenlight, I was a bit kind of not sure really what the $75,000 in kind support was meant for, or how I could access it. So perhaps we can start with Arnold, just to share how you reached out to people and how you access some additional support outside of the cash grant.
Yeah, I will say this, like cash is great, and obviously when we want to make a film, we're always looking for that cash component. But I think I underestimated the value of the in-kind support. And actually, Lynn actually taught me something about that I didn't really understand. So I looked at all the in-kind support, and I thought, okay, this I'll use, this I won't, maybe I won't, maybe I won't, this I will, and I kind of went through it in my head based on my limited experience, or the experiences that I had working as a small-time, indie filmmaker in Victoria. And there was things like audio layback by Sharp Sound, and I was like, I don't think I need that. I have a sound guy; he's gonna do design, and it's just gonna be fine. And then, because I didn't actually know what audio layback actually meant, or how that would actually help my film, and then, or our film, and then. Lynn was like, Arnold, you should do it. And I was like, I don't know. And then she was like, Arnold, you should do it. And I was like, okay. I try to listen to Lynn because she's smart and she knows what she's talking about. And so we did it, and I was so grateful for it because it actually helped a lot. And it was a really cool, like I didn't actually get a chance to attend the session, but to have someone at that professional level, like I think it was like $3,000 or something like that, that it would have costed for me to do it, which is beyond the scope of anything that I could have possibly afforded on a short like this. And they were just amazing to work with and really elevated the project. And I gotta say, Company 3, like, boy, like to have like someone like that, like anchoring your film and doing the color, dude, like I was just like, okay, this is a company that does like big time films, and they did like The Whale and like a whole bunch of films that I was like using as part of my look for the film. And then when they were doing the color, I got this amazing colorist named Aurora, and her Instagram I think is Aurora in Color, but she is just so fantastic, and she speaks a language and 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 paints in a way that I think that you don't really appreciate in the same way until you sit next to that person and watch their paintbrush. And I was just so grateful for that opportunity. So my advice would be, take advantage of the people that you have on your side, whether you believe that you may or may not need them or what their services even are, because these are artists and these are suppliers and people that are just so supportive, so kind, so giving, and their contributions I can't thank them enough for, because they absolutely elevated the film past what I could have imagined with their artistry. And I consider, well, I didn't know that they were on my team before, and I didn't know who they were. Now that I've been through this process with them, I'm just so grateful that they were on my team.
Thanks, Arnold. It's a good reminder of you never really know until you ask, because like what you're mentioning with Company 3, like we worked with a fantastic VFX studio. And I remember when I was emailing them, I was like, there's no way they're going to say yes to this. But, you never really know until you reach out to someone. And if they're, passionate about the project as well, like people often want to find a way to help out. Lynne, did you want to add about what it was like to seek in-kind support, or maybe did you access some folks through your own networks that you already had?
So I just have to say, when you get awarded, DGC provides you with a worksheet, and it's like a candy box. It's a list of all the suppliers that are sponsors who support this program, and it was really incredible. Just first laying eyes on, as Arnold said, Company 3 is one of the sponsors, being your colorist, etc. I even used the coupon from Front Row Insurance. We made sure, going through every line item of all the sponsors, to at least consider or have a chat to see if there's any advantage of using them, and that was super useful to begin with. But simply telling people that we are a DGC Greenlight program really helped open doors. And we were provided this letter template that you actually can use their letterhead to write to suppliers to ask for additional support. We felt that was very helpful. And just going to gear houses and letting them know that this was a Greenlight project, people already know and were very ready to support. So yes, everything about the program is stellar in terms of getting that additional support.
Thanks, Lynne. Angie and Kryssta, do you want to add anything in terms of your process of seeking in-kind support?
We utilized, I know our DOP Dan was very, very happy because it was during the strike, and we had an awesome kit from Keslow camera and all the anamorphic lenses and things that would not normally be probably available to us. So I think there was and then also it was whites, right, with our generators and things like that. There's a bunch of people in this town that I think, like Tug is one of them for sure at Whites, and well, a lot of them at White's actually are always so supportive of indie film and smaller projects. And I think, in great thanks to them, a lot of us at this level wouldn't get things made if it wasn't for their support. And just knowing those guys and having relationships, and understanding the kind of support that they give, often makes they're just so generous if they have things available to them and they can do it. It's and so don't be afraid to ask would be my thing, because they're not big scary people that you're asking lots of things for. They wouldn't put their company's name forward if they didn't want to help. And so don't be afraid to ask. And our DOP got a little bit cheeky with are these lenses available? And they were. And so it's just, I think that's part of it, like just, all they can say is no. But most of the time they'll probably say yes. And then, yeah, my Company 3 experience was so great. I love that you touched on that, Arnold, because it just made me, I was like, oh, I'm a real filmmaker now. Like just walking into that space, and we had Anne Boyle, which it was just this sort of serendipitous thing because she was Irish too. So she knew all about Samhain and everything too. So, and just understanding our color palette and everything too. And just, I feel like there was just a little magic in the air with that, of having an Irish colorist on, sort of a Irish themed film was kind of just magic. Right. And then my sharp sound. So I mean, I'd done color sessions before and stuff like that. So that wasn't totally new to me. But going to sharp sound and sitting there in that day and going through the whole sound design was the coolest thing ever. I was just like, this is so exciting, and just nerding out on everything. And I think that's the cool thing about this experience, is that you have that, and it's in the in-kind offers there, that you get to sort of elevate your filmmaking experience, that makes you comfortable when you're moving forward, and not sort of having that sort of, I'm just a little indie filmmaker imposter syndrome when you go to make your bigger projects, right? It's like, okay, now I know the language, I know what it's like to go there. It's not big, scary, whatever. It's there for us, and people are more than willing to help and excited. We're all just sort of nerdy creatives in the end. And yeah, I'll let Kryssta speak to, I know we got so much support, so I don't want to and you had to do a lot to get those deals made. So I'll let you talk to that. I just benefited.
I'll just wrap up really quick, but I'll say, you guys, post is amazing. I mean, learning, understanding post sound and post picture. I mean, we had a little bit of visual effects to play with. We had a little bit of things to play with. And to Lynne's point about adding another 2 days of shooting a completely different unit on your film, this is the way we're making movies now, you guys. We're constantly re-identifying and recreating what our visuals are and where they come from. And sometimes that's in different units, separate units, stop motion, virtual production. You don't need to think about this like it's light years away from you. Like these are the tools that are available to us now. We're all learning them as we go. Some stuff is so new, but don't be afraid to use that, to try it. And the second thing that I'll say about utilizing your donations in kind list, yes, you have absolutely an open door to ask these suppliers to deliver really expensive stuff to you. The two things that I'll ask you to always have ready for them is your lawyer. Make sure that you have legal agreements, or you've created a legal contract with one of your production lawyers, or a legal assistant that can be there to help you look at contracts. And the second thing is insurance. Make sure that if somebody's going to give you, a $3,500 set of lights or an $8,000 generator for the day, that you've gone ahead and put your insurance in place, so that if something happens that's an accident that nobody thinks about or anticipates, everyone is covered, because that's what you need to do as your duty to the people that are actually giving you a ton of free good shit.
Thanks, Kryssta. So I'm realizing that we are running a little later than scheduled, so apologies for that. There is one more question here, and it's something that we could answer maybe in 1 or 2 sentences if everyone has time. Does anyone here have to go that's on the panel? We're all okay? Okay, so the last question is, what's next for your projects? And it's kind of a two-parter. The other part of it is, what is one way that this project has pushed your careers forward? Or what is one way that this initiative through DGC Greenlight has pushed your careers forward? Angie, do you want to start?
Sure. Good things about it. We just had 5 nominations at the Leos, that's sort of top 5 nomination categories, so that felt good after everything, so that was awesome. We're still out in putting things out in festival mode. We haven't done any festivals yet, so that we're sending that out to the world right now. And then once that's done, we'll see where the life of that film goes. But I'm already looking ahead to feature length projects, and I'm almost finished. I'm so close, probably a couple weeks away, finishing my first feature script. So that's exciting for me. And then even just at the Leos, it was so great, like people coming up to me, maybe having not sort of seen me as a writer director. I don't know how that happened, but because a lot of people know me from Worcester Film Festival and then just AD world as well. So I think it surprises some people sometimes if they see your name up there. So a couple people have reached out and just want to send me their projects and like long form projects to maybe direct. So that's exciting to me. And that's where I want to be going. So it's perfect. So I feel like this was just like being able to do this project just gives you that sort of confidence to be like, yeah, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Now we did that. We went through some hard things. There will always be hard things on films, but I won't be thrown, or I feel like I'm confident to step into all the stages of it on a longer form content and not feel like imposter syndrome or whatever that silliness is. Yeah.
Thanks, Angie. And then Kryssta, did you want to add anything about the festival process for you right now with the film?
I actually don't have much to add other than Angie and I met working on a film festival together. So we spent the first 6-7 years of our lives together in that festival environment. So we kind of got that covered. But yeah, all that to say, films are jumping off points, right? So we've finished our first baby and we're already in the cradle with the next one.
And are you working together on the feature out of curiosity? Yes, love it. That's the best part about, this opportunity is you get to form, these close working relationships and get to continue working together on bigger projects. So that's awesome to hear. Arnold, did you want to add anything about where the film's at and maybe how it's added to or helped your career so far?
So yeah, we just actually started our film festival circuit just because of the way the DGC Greenlight was, and I mean this in a positive way. We held it, and then now it's just starting now, and I would say that sometimes like the effects of film are ephemeral and just they're kind of wispy and we don't know what they are. But I can say that having the opportunity to do the DGC Greenlight has had tangible effects on my forward progression. So selfishly, I'll speak to like when we applied for some grants, we used Obsura, the film that we made with the DGC Greenlight, both in its entirety and clips from it as elements that we used in our pitch project. And I'm happy to say that we pitched our project, our feature film project, to Telefilm, and they funded our next feature film. And that's no small part to the amazing opportunity that the GC Greenlight gave us. So we're very grateful to say that Telefilm has given us $500,000 for our next feature film, and we're going to be making it. It's going to be called The Bryce Lee Story, and it was something that I actually brought up during the DGC Director Showcase, and it's about a young 13-year-old Asian boy named Bryce Lee who lies about being related to Bruce Lee in order to fit in at school. And so we're so fortunate to have that project, and I know for a fact that having something that we made together as a creative team, that's Lynne and I, whom I'm also so grateful for. So thank you, Lynne. And so that has, helped elevate and give us opportunities that we otherwise wouldn't have had. So this is the opportunities are real, they're tangible, and they're empirical, and things that I can't say enough about. And if anyone has any questions about DGC Greenlight, I'm happy to chat with them about it. And part of that journey was learn through the people, and I say this a lot, but learn through the people that have gone before you. Asia was definitely one of them, following in her footsteps. And so all in all, there's just been so much opportunity because of that. So thank you to the DGC.
Thanks, Arnold. And I love the concept for your feature. I'm very excited to watch it, and congrats on the telefilm. Lynne, did you want to share any thoughts?
Yeah, our journey is very much like Angie and Kryssta's in that Leo came first, so we submitted, and we're very grateful to get the nominations and the wins. And now we're just waiting for news from the festival circuit. And I will say, echoing what Arnold said, even though it's only been a short time from last November till now. So not much has happened, except that when we actually talk to people, when we pitch and are able to actually show the caliber of the type of film, the caliber of the films that we are able to make, that was a huge help. So I 100% am sure that it was thanks to this film. Yeah. That's about all, and I'm very excited to be making the next film with Arnold.
Thanks, Lynne. And thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to have this discussion and sharing your advice and wisdom to the folks who are applying this year. And hopefully to those who tuned in, we answered most of your questions. But if there are further questions that you're curious about, feel free to reach out. I believe Coral put a link in the chat, and they can share any of our contact information if anyone has any burning questions that we did not touch upon. So Coral, I'll let you take it from here and just close us off.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Asia, for moderating this discussion. And thank you so much, Arnold, Lynne, Angie, and Kryssta for participating. Kat sends her apologies. She was unable to join us due to some personal conflict. But her main point of advice was to make sure to input in your prep schedule once you are already a Greenlight participant, time to allocate it to the different drawdowns that you will be having to submit to receive the different checks from Greenlight, just to allocate some time for those requirements for the drawdowns, which I'm sure your producer will become very, very familiar once you're at that stage. A couple of things I've shared in the chat, the guidelines for this year's emerging and established applications. There's a few differences from previous years, so make sure you read it very thoroughly. And I've also shared our new DCBC Greenlight page, which has a bit of like an overview of the program itself, and it's where this recording will be living once we make it available. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to me at directors@dgcbc.com, and I'll get to them as soon as I'm able to. And if I do not have the answer, I'll try to find someone who does. And yeah, once again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And hopefully this was a very helpful walkthrough to what the Greenlight experience is. And yeah, hope everybody has a lovely rest of their Tuesday. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Coral. Thank you, Asia.
Thank you, Coral.
Nice
Yeah,
seeing
Yeah,
thank you,
everyone.
Asia.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Carl.